Here's a change of pace. Let's talk about Half-Life 2. I think what's really cool about Half-Life 2 is how understated its themes are, but how well implemented they are into an narrative that doesn't really obstruct the normal gameplay. They're so subtle, and they do such a great effort in characterizing roles in ways you can only appreciate as you step back to take a look. I'm going to go over the plot of Half-Life 2 and some other spoilers, so be warned if you've never played the series. This video is mainly going to be about Dr. Breen and Gordon Freeman, and comparing and contrasting the two characters in portrayal. In between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, an interdimensional alien regime known as the Combine invaded Earth. In only 7 hours, they brought down the united global effort to fight back. Now, let's think about that for a second. All the military powers in the world working together in 7 hours was all it took for them to bring out the treaties and beg for to not be completely wiped out of existence. It didn't take a politician to bargain with the Combine, because there's nothing a politician could offer in interdimensional alien totalitarian occupancy. There's no preventing annexation or preventing extinction. What could a politician possibly offer? Enter Wallace Breen, a scientist and administrator of Black Mesa, the secret research facility which is featured in Half-Life 1, and he was also the administrator during Half-Life 1. Breen was able to argue for humanity's salvation through other means. There's a reason to not make us go extinct, and that's the idea that humans could provide the Combine with something. It could provide unique technologies, specifically local transportation. The Combine and all their advancements could not locally teleport. This makes humanity actually have something to bargain with. And as of Half-Life 2, it's what's actively keeping us alive. Likewise, there's reasons beyond mere survival that incentivize Breen to keep working with the Combine and collaborate, in his own words. Breen sees the Combine as an opportunity for humanity to grow beyond what they were. The Combine have been able to merge themselves with technology and effectively become immortal. They've been conquerors of many universes and dimensions and are considered to be a grand collective. He calls them a universal union, a grand collaboration of many species over many multiversal dimensions. It'd be so beautiful if it wasn't so horrifying. The evolutions provided allow humanity to go beyond what can be considered human. This promise of scientific discovery and growth, coupled with the alternative, if you could call it that, is total extinction. And those two options make it obvious to Breen that working with the Combine is the only option. It should be noted that extinction will almost certainly come for humans, and many humans too, even if he chooses the Combine route, because the Combine has turned on a suppression field that prevents humans from reproducing. Breen is aware of this and doesn't seem to mind, because to Breen, he's already selected the humans that will survive into the Combine merge and into the future. There's more, but there's an easy example with the Combine Overwatch. The Combine Overwatch in Half-Life 2 are an elite group of human civil servants already augmented by the Combine technology, and they are promised to be the best humanity has to offer. If they fail in their mission to capture you, they will face extinction, along with every other irrelevant part of the species. To Breen, this is all a worthy sacrifice in the name of advancement and survival. This is what's really important here. All of these words and concepts repeat, and these repeat to define Breen. Breen is mild-mannered, diplomatic, preferring to use words rather than violence to get what he wants. He is thematically associated with a life, longevity, security, science, progress, even if these concepts are completely twisted into something horrifying. The Combine don't try to murder people unless they're left no other choice. Whenever they can, what they try to do is arrest people, and they take people to Nova Prospect, where they become functioning slaves to the Combine. Unable to do even the slightest thing in resistance. They're able to take the most stubborn issues and stubborn people and turn them into thoughtless, powerless cogs in their grand machine. Breen uses broadcasts to spread his propaganda to the people of the city, trying to keep them at peace as the Combine suck the resources off the planet and poke and prod humans until they finally produce that local teleportation. The events of Half-Life 2 directly follow the day the Resistance cracks the code and pretty much perfects local teleportation, at least in early human tests. The quote-unquote red letter day. The reason for Gordon Freeman's arrival. Alex says, funny you showing up on this day in particular. And Breen's invasion of the Resistance base. Breen says they could have taken Eli Vance at any time. Eli Vance, for those who don't know, is the leader of the Resistance, and at any time during the years preceding. Breen and the Combine did not take Eli, because Eli would not have worked under the Combine. Breen's effective and practical. After Eli's done the hard part, that's when Breen sees fit to take him. Likewise, at the end of Half-Life 2, when Gordon Freeman busts through the Citadel and finds his way to the office and in the clutches of Dr. Breen, when they finally confront each other, what does the antagonist of the game do? What does the big bad do to Gordon Freeman when Gordon is powerless? Breen does not murder Gordon, nor does he threaten him. Nor does he exile him or turn him into the Combine. He considers these options throughout the game in terms of other avenues, but the moment you're face to face with him, he offers you a job. He knows you can do something he can't, which is calm the rebellion down. And he also knows your career path may be less ethical and heroic than most people may believe. More on this later. So, this was all basic characterization and discussion. What's special about Breen and how he functions in the game as an antagonist is how weak he is, how limp he is. He is ultimately played out, even after all of these compliments, as a yes man to the alien Combine, and he seems to be the human who sold us out. Again, I've also praised Breen quite a bit here. He's not strong, but he's smart. His philosophy and understanding of the world and people are not mistaken. It's quite possible Breen is right. We may be facing total extinction if we don't play ball. The only person that can begin to understand the extent of the Combine's power is Breen himself. Now, this is when we enter the player character, Gordon Freeman. What's special about Gordon Freeman is how he's Breen's opposite in almost every way. Gordon doesn't talk at all, and rather solves problems through player action. Breen also characterizes Gordon as a disruptor. Breen's opposed to the concept of instinct, and Gordon seems to be entirely on instinct. And instinct is paired with the idea of base survival to Breen. He also characterizes the rejection of the Combine and of progress as rejecting evolution. Refusal to collaborate is a refusal to grow, an insistence on suicide, Breen says. Breen also talks about Gordon as this descent into extinction. Gordon Freeman represents the core themes of the series: decay, death, entropy, and instinct. Breen frames instinct as a coddling mother that protected us when we needed it, before science, modern philosophy, and the advents of society. Gordon represents this instinct because functionally all he does is survive. His violence and track record for bringing about violence is unmatched. His figure is synonymous with the darkest urges of instinct, ignorance, and decay. Destruction is the name of Gordon's game. A man of science with the ability to sway reactionary and fearful minds towards the truth, choosing instead to embark on a path of ignorance and decay. Make no mistake, Dr. Freeman, this is not a scientific revolution you have sparked. This is death and finality. That's the actual quote. As an aside here, these are not necessarily heroic. These are blurred lines. Surely I'm not claiming that the actions of Breen and the Combine are heroic. The line is complicated. First, Gordon Freeman leads to a lot of unnecessary destruction and death in his path. This is even said by his friends like Dr. Kleiner. Breen also cites the fact that Gordon has led them right to the Resistance base. When Breen characterizes Gordon as a disruptor, he directly cites the events of Black Mesa. What does Dr. Breen mean by the worst excesses? Gordon was just trying to survive, right? Well, there's different answers to that question. First, Gordon has different opportunities for excessive force and immoral actions within the first Half-Life game depending on player choice. You can, for instance, kill any NPC after they are of no use to the critical path. There's also canonical events that showcase Gordon being mischievous. Magnuson's microwave casserole is a reference to the microwave casserole in Half-Life 1. Now, that is a very minor offense, but that might not mean anything, but there's larger implications there. Namely, canonically, there were times where Gordon chose to do something bad. Here's something more concrete. Gordon Freeman murders a lot of people. Yes, in the name of self-defense. Though the body count starts to pile up into disturbing implications. The US military Freeman kills certainly all have friends and families and homes, but more notably and explicit is the alien creatures of Zen. The Vortigaunts after Half-Life 1 acknowledge your violence and your murder of their people in Half-Life 2. Now, they acknowledge you as a savior to them because you have freed them from their slavery to the Nihilith, but they also don't forgive you because of your murders of their people. And they don't feel like they can forgive you morally. They don't feel like they are the ones to bestow forgiveness. They don't hate you for it, but they're vividly aware of the Vortigaunts that have been lost to you. Another example to emphasize this concept is the cut line, and it's probably cut because of cultural insensitivity, not because it's counter to the themes presented. This happens when Gordon denies G-Man's offer in the first game. This is the cut line.
Well, it looks like we won't be working together. No regrets, Mr. Freeman. But there are a few survivors of your personal Holocaust who would like the chance to meet the man responsible for the total annihilation of their race.
This line really emphasizes that Gordon's destructive influence is responsible for a lot of disturbing implications. The Nihilith, deplorable he may be, was a refugee and the last of his kind. As you murder the Nihilith, Gordon is actively participating in genocide. And in this, Gordon's Zen invasion isn't self-defense. You could say it's war, and it was provoked. But the scientists sent Gordon to Zen to kill the Nihilith. And this is where we start to see Breen and Gordon blend in an ironic sort of yin-yang fashion. Breen dismisses Gordon's instinct and violence, but that's not entirely different from Breen's own will to survive for humanity no matter the cost. We dismiss Breen and the Combine because of their unspeakable actions on other races. Eli speaks of the horrifying concepts of genocide in protest to Breen, but we as Gordon Freeman have actively partaken in this disgusting violence ourselves. Further parallels and contrasts can be found elsewhere. Breen is considered the right man in the right place as he becomes humanity's representative to the Combine. Gordon is considered the right man at the wrong place, possibly indicating that the only real difference between these two are the events that have shaped them to make their decisions. And how many decisions can they really make? Both seem to be slaves to greater powers. Breen pretends to want advancement for humanity, but is also completely dismissive of the things that make us human, all while serving Combine interests. Gordon is a slave to powers we aren't even aware of. Though I find it so interesting in a video in itself that the games frame Gordon's slavery as employment, as if we all have to be employed and work to survive. That's really what's happening here. Breen and Gordon are trying to fight and survive for humanity's own survival, but they disagree on their methods on a fundamental level. When you're destroying the Citadel, Breen's asking you to be careful. Breen's last words before the Citadel core blows up are, "Think of the people down there. Think, man, think." Surely you are not thinking about the people down below as you are partaking in this pseudo-boss fight blowing up an entire building. I think it's obvious that the game sides with Gordon Freeman as the hero, and so do I, obviously. But there's a sort of grace to the destructive elements of Gordon. And I think that's really where it comes down to the point of Half-Life as a title and a concept here. Entropy is beautiful and human in a very profound way. Breen is fighting to spite entropy, fighting to spite our animal instincts and our own free wills. And this manifests in terms of the Combine and the totalitarian governance that they hold. Gordon is fighting for free will, even if it's non existent, even if we are bound by our chains we can't even conceive. Gordon's fighting for instinct. He's fighting for us to die on our own terms. And thanks everybody for listening to this. If you did click on it, I know I'm famous for, and by famous I mean like 200 view famous, but hey, I'll take it for Dark Souls lore videos. But I wanted to go into other content, and this was the first of 2 Half-Life videos I wanted to make. The other Half-Life video I want to make is more so concerning the G-Man and Gordon's employment and talking about those themes of the game. But as of right now, I thought I was really satisfied by Dr. Breen's as a character. I really like Dr. Breen. So yeah, if you liked this video and want to see more general game videos regarding lore and story and how they function, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much if you did. And bye everybody.